Hi everyone, my name is Danny. I make all types of YouTube videos, and one of the things of the different type of material that I make YouTube videos of is chess videos. So for those who don't know, I've been making a set of chess videos. So to give you a bit of background, not that long ago, I bought a chess program, and I, I found that the chess program was pretty good, and so at some point into the levels, I decided to start recording videos of the games that I was playing. Um, so I think there are, if I remember right, there are 10 levels. So I didn't start recording videos at the very beginning levels. That would just be too easy. So I started more towards the end, um, more of the higher levels. And yeah, and so I don't want to give too much away because I don't want to spoil things as to, so that you'll be spoiled as to, like, am I going to win the game, or am I going to lose the game, or am I going to draw, or whatever. But let's just say that, as I've been progressing through the levels, I've been recording games. And so I'm going to be recording videos right until the end. Let's put it that way. And so if I remember right, the level that I'm at right now, well, yeah, I'm quite sure that there are 10 levels. And so this game here that I played um, is level 10. And of course, in chess, you know every level would have the the player, which is me, to choose between either the white pieces or black pieces, right? So I the post the video that I previously posted was level 10, but I was playing with the white pieces. So this game, um, so this game I'm playing level 10, and I'm playing with the black pieces. Okay. So yeah, so like I said, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil things. So I just wanted to say that this game was played not that long ago, and because of the technology of the chess program, it allows me to document all the moves. All the moves are saved, so now I can just, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to um, go back on the game that I already played, and because the moves are already saved, I'm just going to go through the game with the moves, and I'm going to give some analysis, some of my comments. Also, too, the chess program comes with various settings, and so one of the settings is the audio settings, and a lot of the audio settings I really like, and so I turn on some of those audio settings. So what you're hearing in the background, that sounds like cars driving down a road, or it sounds like a fan or a computer running, or crickets, or all these types of sounds. Those are just audio sounds that the game provides. I like to have those. And also too, you're going to be hearing audio sounds of the chess pieces, like when the chess pieces are moving, when they're capturing, and all that type of thing. Okay? So I'm going to get right to it. So, like I said, the computer's playing with the white pieces, and myself, I'm playing with the black pieces. So let's get right to it. So the computer starts with C4. So C4 is the English opening. So I respond with C6. So the reason I am responding with C6 is I'm trying to transpose into a Slav defense like structure. And so the computer moves E4. Now that move is a little bit odd, according to me. And so I continue with my intention to transpose, like I said, into a Slav defense-like structure. I move my pawn to D5. So the computer's pawn takes my pawn on D5. So my pawn takes the computer's pawn on D5. The computer's pawn takes my pawn on D5. And my queen takes the computer's pawn on D5. So just a quick comment here. Oh yeah, I also just want to say that one of the learning tools I'm going to be using is, I used to have different tools and they didn't really work that well, but I found that one foolproof way is I just tend to use just a ruler, just an ordinary ruler. And so when I bring out this ruler, I'm just trying to make it easier for you guys to be able to see sort of the points that I'm making and so forth. So right out of the opening, I feel like I'm at a bit of an advantage here, because you see the computer's pawn in the middle, that pawn on D2, that's an isolated pawn, so it has no support with the other pawn. So that's a bit of a weakness right there. So the computer moves his knight to F3. I move my knight to F6. The computer moves his knight to C3, attacking my queen. I move my queen to C5. I like C5 because it still gives me this target here towards the F2 pawn. The computer moves his bishop to E2. I move my bishop to F5. I'm trying to think if I should say anything about that move, if there was any sort of intention. I want to develop that bishop out of there, because I know that I'm going to want to develop my bishop on F8 very quickly, and so in order to do that, I'm going to have to move my pawn probably to E6, and that could potentially block in that bishop. So by getting my bishop out of there, my bishop doesn't get blocked. So the computer moves his pawn to D4. It's trying to take control of the center while attacking my queen, so it gets a little bit of a tempo on my queen. And I move my queen to B6, and I like that square because I'm still x-raying that diagonal, And I'm also kind of keeping an eye on the B file and keeping my eye on this pawn here on B2. So the computer moves his pawn to D5. So the reason the computer does that is the computer knows that I need to develop my bishop here on F8, and the only way that I can really do that is by moving this pawn up, right? And so by the computer moving that pawn on D5, once I move this pawn here on E7 up, it wants to exchange those. It wants to exchange pawns because that pawn right there, like I said before, on D5, it's an isolated pawn. It's very weak. But I don't go for that. I know the computer's plan, so I move my pawn to G6. It's just a better way to develop that bishop by fianchettoing it on G7. So the computer moves his pawn to H4. I fianchetto my bishop to G7. The computer castles. I castle. The computer moves his pawn to A4. I move my knight on B to D7. I'm just developing it. So the computer moves his pawn to A5, attacking my queen. I move my queen to D6. The computer moves his knight to D4. So that's a good move. It's powerful in the center like that. It's also attacking my bishop on F5. So I move that bishop to E4. So I'm thwarting the attack, and I'm also attacking that isolated pawn on D5. So the computer moves his knight on D to B5, attacking my queen. So I move my queen to E5. The computer moves his pawn to F4. So here I have to be careful because if I was thinking of moving it to, if I was thinking of moving my queen to F5, then the computer would move his pawn to G4, and then I would lose my queen. So here I move my queen to B8, and actually that's the only place that I can move my queen without it being captured. And then the computer moves his rook to A4. Basically, attacking my knight on e4. And then I move my knight to c5 to um, not only protect that bishop, but also to attack his knight on a4. And the computer moves his king to f2. So, since I've played this game, I've reviewed the game on my own quite a few times. So I've studied it and analyzed it a little bit. I've come to the conclusion that that move is a blunder. There's sort of no point in moving that king to f2. Not that I have found anyways. And that just allows me to do this. So my knight just captures his rook on a4. And the computer's queen captures my knight on a4. But I'm winning because that exchange, I got his rook in exchange for my knight, and the rook is worth 5 points. Knight is worth 3 points, so I'm up in material at this point. So my bishop takes the pawn on d5. So I gotta, because my bishop was being attacked, and also I can gain a pawn there. So the computer moves his king to g1. I'm not sure why the computer played that. And I move my bishop to c6. I move there because there's just a nice pin. It's just good to be able to pin that knight towards the queen. So the computer moves his queen to b4. I decide that my bishop should take that knight on b5 because, like I said, I'm winning. I'm up in material, and so when you're up in material, you want to exchange. And so the computer's queen takes my bishop on b5. And I move my queen to c7. I'm just trying to get my queen active into the game while protecting that pawn on b7. And the computer moves his bishop to e3. So he's sort of attacking my pawn on a7 a little bit. And I move my pawn to e6. I'm just trying to gain a little bit of space in the center of the board. And then the computer moves his bishop to f3. So that bishop on f3, that computer on f3 is attacking my pawn on d7, my pawn on b7. So here I decide to protect that pawn protect the pawn on b7 by moving my rook on the f file to b8. After reviewing this game, that is not really the best move. The better move actually would have just to move, instead of moving my rook on f to b8, the better move would just be to move my pawn to a6. So if I moved my pawn to a6, what would happen is the worst case scenario for me is I would end up losing one pawn. I would end up losing that one pawn possibly on b7. The problem here with thinking that I was protecting that pawn here on b7 is that my rook here on a8, it gets trapped in that corner, and having a rook trapped in that corner makes it very, very vulnerable to being captured, and you'll see why in a second. So anyways, this is how the game went. And so the computer moves his pawn to a6. So at this point in the game, I only really had one move, which was this. Was for my pawn to take his pawn on a6. That was really the only move that I had at that point. So let's see what happens. And so the computer's queen takes my pawn on a6. And so my rook takes the computer's pawn on b2. The computer's bishop takes my rook on a8. And my queen takes the computer's knight on c3. So basically at this point, I'll just sort of update you on where the game is at now. Is see this pawn here on a7, it's pretty much going to be captured. Most likely going to be captured. That pawn on a7 is most likely going to be captured. So if I compare that to the pawn that I captured, so the pawns are equal. So the exchange that happened was he captured my rook and I captured his knight. So exchange wise and material wise, he's up in material. But if you just look at my position, my position is just so much better. I have my rook on b2 now, and it's got pretty much control of that whole second rank. And if you just look at where my queen is right now, my queen is on c3. That's in a very dangerous position regarding possible attacks on his king. And we'll sort of see why this all sort of makes sense a little bit. So we'll just see what happens next. So the computer the computer decides to um, have his bishop capture my pawn on a7, which is like I just said that it would. Um, and then I move, and then I move my I move my queen to g3. Okay, so by moving my queen to g3, the bottom line is that that's completely winning for me. That's checkmate combination for me, 100%. Right. So he's basically pretty much lost the game at this point. So if I were to, I have rewind on this program. So his instead of being greedy and eating my pawn on a7, what the computer should have did was move this bishop, which is on e3. I just want to make sure that I'm getting this right, that I'm not saying the wrong thing here. Yeah, so instead of having that bishop be greedy and take my pawn on a7, the bishop should have moved, the computer should have moved that bishop to f2. And by moving that bishop to f2, I'm pretty sure that thwarts my checkmate combination, because by moving it there, I'm not able to move my queen to g3, and that pretty much thwarts my checkmate combination. So getting back to the game, so what happened was his bishop took my pawn on a7, and then I moved my queen to g3. And then the computer moves his bishop to d4, and it's very similar again. Instead of making that move, had the computer instead moved that bishop to f2, the square that I just said, had the computer move that bishop on d4 to f2, it would have thwarted my checkmate combination. Because then I would most likely have to use my queen to capture the pawn on f4, and then he could move that pawn to g3, and then I would have to move my queen somewhere, and then he could eventually, his bishop here on e8, he could move it back to g2, and then my checkmate combination would be thwarted. So here he's presently attacking both. Um, he's presently attacking both um, my rook on b2, and he's also attacking my knight on f6. So basically speaking, as soon as I need to get my knight to this knight here on f6, once I get that knight to g4, it's checkmate. So I can't let his bishop take my knight. I don't care about the rook at this point. So now it's pretty much official that once I moved my knight to g4, that's pretty much checkmate. And the computer knows that, and the computer is just trying to just do anything to make me not checkmate him by just forcing me to make other moves. And so the computer moved his queen to c8, putting me in check. And I move my bishop to f8 to protect my king. And so the computer's queen takes my bishop on f8, putting me in check. So again, it's just like I said. The computer knows that he's just about to be checkmated. And so he's just doing any type of move to have me not make those checkmate moves, even if it involves sacrificing his queen. So my king takes his queen on f8. The computer moves his bishop to c5, putting me in check. I move my king to g8, and the computer moves his rook to d1. The reason he's doing that is because he's just trying to free up that one square, which was f1, but because that square f1 is the one square where his king can temporarily escape to, so he's just freeing up that square. But it's too late. I move my queen to h2, putting him in check. The computer moves his king to f1. I move my queen to h1, putting him in check. And the computer moves his bishop to g1, and I'm quite sure actually that was the computer's only legal move at that point. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was the computer's only legal move. And so I move my knight to e3, putting him in check. And then the computer moves his king to e1. And yeah, that was his only legal move too. And if I remember right, I checkmate him in the next move. Um, so I move my queen to um, yeah, my queen captures his bishop on um, g1 and checkmate. And that's checkmate. All right. So now that the game is over, I don't really have to worry about spoilers anymore, especially because this was the last level. Um, so there were a total of 10 levels. This is level 10, and like I said before, the previous game that I posted was level 10 where I was the white pieces. This time it's level 10 where I'm the black pieces. So I just wanted to say that this is going to be the last video that I'm going to make regarding this chess program. I didn't want to say it before to spoil things, but what I decided to do was basically only record and post the videos in which the games that I won. Um, so now that that was that was the last game for me to win. Um, Now that that was the last game for me to win, there's no need for me to make any more of these videos. Um, so that just concludes me making these types of videos for this particular chess program. I'm just going to wrap this up. I don't want to make this video go on any longer. And yeah, it's been fun. Not only has it been a learning experience to play all the games, to win, not only to win them, but also to lose, because you learn by losing. And although I only posted the games that I won, honestly, um, there were some of those levels in which I lost dozens and dozens of times. So not only that, but I've also found that making the chess videos that I do now, where I have to analyze and comment and I'm using the chess notation, I've also found that that's made me a better chess player. Just analyzing the stuff, like, as I said before, I analyze a lot of it quite a few times before, and I go through it on my own board and stuff. And so that whole process just makes me just a better chess player. And also to just learning and practicing the chess notation and stuff. Yeah, this concludes these videos for this particular chess program. Although I just wanted to say that I am planning on playing some, as they call it, board to board, or OTB on the board chess tournaments. So, which means chess tournaments where you're actually facing a real person. I'm actually thinking of starting those up again, and when I do play those tournaments, I'm going to be posting videos about the tournaments. Maybe I'll take some of the games and I'll do some of these types of videos again where I analyze some of my games. So I just want to wrap this up very quickly and say thanks a lot for watching all my videos. It's much appreciated. And if you hit that subscribe button, you'll be able to know whenever I post a new video. Click on all notifications, so you'll definitely know whenever I post a new video. or whatever. So I think that's it. Yeah, peace out.